Have you ever wondered where the world's most jaw-dropping airports are hiding? We're talking about runways built on cliffsides, approaches that fly between skyscrapers, and landing strips so short they make even experienced pilots sweat. These aren't your average terminals with long security lines and overpriced coffee. These are engineering marvels, death-defying approaches, and places where one wrong move could mean absolute disaster. So get ready, because we're about to explore 15 of the most incredible airports on planet Earth. Let's kick things off with Innsbruck Airport, nestled deep in the Austrian Alps. Innsbruck sits in a valley, completely surrounded by towering peaks reaching over 2,000 meters, forcing pilots to thread the needle through narrow mountain passes just to reach the runway. The alpine terrain creates violent, unpredictable wind currents that toss aircraft around like toys, with sudden downdrafts appearing without warning. Yet despite these extreme conditions, Innsbruck regularly handles jets as large as the Boeing 767. Watching a wide-body aircraft weave between snow-capped mountains before touching down is absolutely mesmerizing. The combination of challenging terrain and unpredictable weather makes Innsbruck one of the most technically demanding airports in Europe, requiring special pilot qualification and extensive local knowledge before airlines allow their crews to operate here. From the Austrian mountains, we're jumping to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Juancho. Yrausquin Airport on the Caribbean island of Saba holds a remarkable world record. The shortest commercial runway on Earth at just 1,300 feet. To put that in perspective, JFK's shortest runway stretches over 2,500 meters, more than 6 times longer. At Saba, there's absolutely no room for error whatsoever. Only small aircraft like the Twin Otter can operate here, thanks to exceptional short takeoff and landing capabilities that allow it to get airborne and stop in incredibly short distances. The runway sits on a narrow plateau, with cliffs on 3 sides dropping away to the ocean below, and there's essentially no go-around option once you've started descent. The approach requires flying between volcanic hills before committing to the landing. Despite serving fewer than 2,000 people, Saba maintains regular scheduled service, proving even the smallest communities can be connected by air when skilled pilots are willing to take on the challenge. But if Saba makes you nervous, Tenzing-Hillary Airport in Lukla, Nepal might absolutely terrify you. Aviation experts frequently rank this as the most dangerous airport in the entire world, and for very good reason. Perched precariously on a mountainside, at more than 2,800 meters elevation, Lukla serves as the primary gateway for trekkers heading to Mount Everest Base Camp. The runway measures just 530 meters with an insane 11.7% gradient, essentially a steep ramp carved directly into the mountain. This slope helps slow landing aircraft as they're going uphill and gives departing planes a gravity-assisted boost, but it makes the timing of landing flares absolutely critical. Come in too high and you'll float past the touchdown zone with a mountain wall waiting. Too low and you'll slam into the upslope. A botched approach leaves virtually no room for go-around because mountains block the climb-out path in every direction. Weather turns hostile with zero warning, with clouds and fog rolling in within minutes, causing frequent cancellations that can strand trekkers for days. Nepal's aviation authority restricts operations to specially trained pilots who must complete 10 supervised flights with a certified instructor before operating independently. The combination of extreme altitude, short runway, steep gradient, and unforgiving terrain makes every landing at Lukla a genuine test of skill. Paro International Airport in Bhutan takes mountain challenges to another level entirely. This is Bhutan's only international airport, sitting deep in a valley, surrounded by Himalayan peaks, reaching 5,500 meters into the sky. Pilots must navigate precisely between these massive mountains, flying a carefully prescribed path, but high terrain sits directly in front of the runway threshold, forcing pilots to execute a dramatic last-second turn to align with the runway. This maneuver requires pinpoint accuracy and perfect speed control. The turn must be initiated at exactly the right moment. Too early, and you'll be too far from the runway. Too late, and you won't have time to stabilize. Only a handful of pilots worldwide less than 20 at last count, are certified to land at Paro, and operations are strictly restricted to daylight hours with good visibility. There are no instrument approaches here. It's all visual flying. During the COVID pandemic, a Boeing 737 carrying desperately needed vaccines made international headlines after an unstabilized approach resulted in a hard landing that went viral online, despite having two experienced captains and a local pilot familiar with Paro in the cockpit. Princess Juliana International Airport on St. Martin is probably the most famous airport among aviation enthusiasts worldwide. Aircraft on final approach to runway 10 roar just meters above Maho Beach, where tourists gather specifically to experience the thrill of massive jets screaming overhead at what feels like touching distance. The fence separating the beach from the airport sits right at the runway threshold, meaning aircraft pass over beachgoers at maybe 10 to 15 meters altitude. You can feel the heat from the engines and hear the roar that shakes your entire body. Before KLM retired their beloved Boeing 747 fleet, these iconic jumbos would blast beachgoers with incredibly powerful jet wash on departure, literally knocking people off their feet and sending them tumbling across the sand. While the 747s are sadly gone, visitors still witness impressive wide-body aircraft like the Airbus A330 and Boeing 777 making dramatic low approaches. The combination of crystal clear Caribbean water, white sand, and commercial jets at eye level has made Princess Juliana one of the most photographed airports on Earth, with videos of jet blast incidents accumulating millions of views online. Skiathos Airport in Greece offers a similar spectacle with its own Mediterranean flavor. This small Greek island in the Aegean Sea had extremely limited space for airport development, so the perimeter fence sits mere meters from the runway threshold. Aviation enthusiasts and tourists gather at the approach end to watch jets pass incredibly close overhead before touching down. What makes Skiathos extra special is the friendly interaction between pilots and enthusiasts on the ground. Pilots frequently wave from the cockpit windows, sometimes even opening their side windows for a better view, or occasionally stopping the aircraft on the taxiway for an extended greeting to the cheering crowd. It's not uncommon to see pilots giving thumbs up or taking photos of the spotters as the spotters photograph them. On departure, aircraft line up pointing directly at the assembled spotters before unleashing full thrust, creating a powerful jet blast that, while technically prohibited to stand in according to posted warning signs, everyone experiences at least once. The force is strong enough to push you backwards several steps if you're not braced, and sand gets blown everywhere, but it's become part of the Skiathos experience. Gibraltar International Airport wins serious points for sheer audacity in design, and might be the strangest airport layout in the world. Located on British territory at Spain's southern tip, Gibraltar features something absolutely unique, a 4-lane public road that cuts directly across the active runway. Winston Churchill Avenue, a regular street used daily by cars, trucks, buses, motorcycles, and pedestrians, literally intersects the runway at a 90-degree angle. Every single time an aircraft needs to land or depart, police officers close the road with barriers and deploy spike strips to prevent entry, treating it exactly like a high-security railroad crossing. Traffic backs up on both sides as motorists wait for the aircraft to cross their road. Airport personnel then quickly sweep the runway for any debris left by vehicles. This absolutely bizarre arrangement exists purely because Gibraltar is so geographically tiny, just 6-8 square kilometers total, that there was simply no other way to build both a functioning airport and maintain road access across the territory. The runway required extension by reclaiming land from the adjacent bay, bringing it to 1,800 meters, barely long enough for A320s and 737s to operate safely. Madeira Airport in Portugal, located on the Atlantic island birthplace of football legend Cristiano Ronaldo, showcases extraordinary engineering achievement. Originally built with just 1,600 meters of runway, a tragic accident in 1977 that killed 131 people prompted urgent extensions. The most impressive expansion came in 2000 when engineers added nearly a full kilometer. The problem was terrain. Madeira's dramatically mountainous landscape made conventional extension completely impossible. The solution was building a massive elevated platform supported by 180 individual columns rising from the hillside and ocean floor, essentially creating a bridge structure that aircraft land on. This extension won multiple international engineering awards and is considered one of the most impressive airport construction projects ever completed. Beyond the impressive runway engineering, Madeira's approach is equally dramatic. High terrain directly in front of runway 05 makes straight-in approaches impossible, forcing pilots to execute a nearly 180-degree descending turn to line up with the runway. Add in Madeira's notoriously fierce and gusty winds that funnel through the mountains, and you get an airport where go-arounds and diverted flights happen with impressive regularity. Toncontin International Airport in Tegucigalpa, Honduras presents another serious mountain challenge. Surrounded by high terrain and a narrow valley, Toncontin requires a dramatic circling approach where pilots execute a sharp 45-degree banking turn at low altitude while navigating around mountainsides. The runway sits at 1,000 meters elevation and measures just 2,163 meters, relatively short for an international airport regularly serving Boeing 737s and Airbus A320s. The challenging approach, combined with the short runway and significant terrain obstacles, has resulted in several serious incidents over the years, leading many international airlines to switch operations to a newer, safer airport built outside the city. However, Toncontin remains operational and continues to serve domestic flights and some international routes, testing pilot skills daily. Courchevel Airport in the French Alps might be the most extreme airport you've never heard of. Located in one of France's most prestigious ski destinations, Courchevel features a runway only 525 meters long with an absolutely insane 18.6% gradient, even steeper than Lukla. When you look at the runway from the side, it appears to drop off a cliff. There's no published go-around procedure because surrounding mountains make missed approaches essentially impossible. Only helicopters and small aircraft operated by specially trained pilots can use this facility, primarily serving extremely wealthy skiers who prefer flying directly to the slopes rather than enduring long drives on winding mountain roads. The airport gained additional fame from appearing in a James Bond film. Barra Airport in Scotland operates on something truly remarkable: a beach. The runway is literally the sandy beach at Tramhor, and flight schedules are published with tide tables because when the tide comes in, the runway completely disappears underwater. This unique airport serves Scotland's Outer Hebrides Islands, and passengers walk directly onto the sand to board flights. 3 runways marked only by wooden poles handle a few flights daily aboard Twin Otter aircraft. It's the only beach airport in the world handling scheduled commercial service, and it's been operating this way since the 1930s. Wellington International Airport in New Zealand has absolutely legendary wind that's earned it a fearsome reputation among pilots. Situated at the southern tip of New Zealand's North Island, in the notorious Roaring Forties latitude, Wellington experiences some of the most consistently strong winds of any major airport. Crosswinds regularly exceed 30 knots, with gusts hitting 50 knots or more during storms. Pilots must constantly correct their approach as unpredictable wind shear pushes aircraft around. Go-arounds and diversions are remarkably common, and passengers frequently experience genuinely thrilling landings as pilots wrestle their aircraft onto the runway, sometimes landing partially sideways to compensate for severe crosswind. Narsarsuaq Airport in Greenland combines several extreme elements. This former military base sits at a fjord head surrounded by massive ice caps and unpredictable Arctic weather. Pilots must navigate through the fjord, flying between steep walls of rock and glacial ice, before executing a turn to line up with the runway. Visibility can change in seconds as fog and snow squalls roll in off the ice sheet. The approach requires visual conditions, causing many flights to divert or turn back. Arctic operations add challenges like severe icing, extreme cold, affecting aircraft systems, and limited winter daylight. Yet this airport serves as a crucial transportation link for Greenland's southern region. Congonhas Airport in São Paulo, Brazil, operates in one of the world's largest cities, with a 1,940-meter runway surrounded by dense urban development. Despite the short runway, it handles some of the highest traffic volumes in South America, with 737s and 320s. The the airport sits virtually downtown, meaning severe noise restrictions and carefully flown approaches. The short runway, combined with Sao Paulo's frequent rain, created a deadly situation in 2007 when a TAM Airlines A320 overran in wet conditions, crashing into a building. This is Brazil's deadliest aviation accident with 199 casualties. The tragic incident led to major safety improvements, including runway resurfacing. We can't have this video without Kai Tak Airport in Hong Kong, which operated until 1998 and was universally famous for having arguably the most spectacular approach in aviation history. Located in downtown Kowloon, Kai Tak was completely surrounded by high-rise apartment buildings. The famous checkerboard approach required pilots to fly directly toward a mountain marked with a distinctive checkerboard pattern, then execute an incredibly sharp right turn at less than 200 meters altitude while flying over the densely packed city. Passengers sitting on the right side could literally see Hong Kong residents watching television through apartment windows. Boeing 747s regularly performed this challenging approach, and even the supersonic Concorde landed there. The airport closed in 1998 due to severe capacity constraints, and because its urban location made expansion impossible, so Hong Kong had to build an entirely new airport on reclaimed land far from the city. These 15 airports represent the absolute pinnacle of aviation challenge, creative engineering solutions, and exceptional pilot skill. From beaches that disappear with tides to runways carved into mountainsides, from approaches through narrow fjords to landings on platforms held by hundreds of columns, these facilities push the boundaries of what's possible in aviation. They remind us that despite all our technological advancement, geography and weather still demand our utmost respect. And sometimes the only way to connect isolated communities is by building airports in places that seem absolutely impossible. That's what makes them extraordinary testaments to human ingenuity.